I would like to welcome everybody out today for this amazing event. Let me take these off. My name is Tamu Smith, and I am pleased to, we ready? I guess we should have tested this out.
There we go.
Yes, my name is Tamu Smith, and I am pleased to be here with you all today. We might get some pickup here. I don't know. My name is Tamu Smith, and I'm pleased to be here with you today. I am here in Salt Lake from Utah County, and I just wanted to say to everyone here, welcome. Let me tell you a little bit about who I am. My name is, again, Tamu Smith, and I am from San Bernardino, California, Southern California. I am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I tell you this because when I say this next part of what I'm going to say, it will start to make sense to you, I hope, about why I'm so excited here and why I feel like what Representative Hollins is doing is an amazing thing and a great thing. I was born into a very strong Pentecostal family, and at the age of 11 joined the LDS Church because I felt like God told me that that's where I needed to be, and I had parents who encouraged a relationship with God, and so they allowed me the freedom to attend the LDS Church, but then I still had to go to real church with them on Sunday. And if you know Pentecostal church, you can meet at LDS Church and then go back to real church, and they're still praising and worshiping. So it didn't really make a difference to them as long as I was in a God-fearing organization. I don't know whose phone that is, but I do know that it is not mine. And so a few years ago, I've been in Utah for 24 years, last August 1st. A few years ago, when when my kids graduate, we go on a family trip. I take that child to where they want to go, and this daughter said, I want to go visit relatives in Central California. And I was like, Central California for what? Who wants to go to Central California? Like, there's no beach there. And my family in Central California, I hope they're not watching this, they're a little bit country. Not country, but country. And so, you know, people don't know this, but like I have an aunt, she was 98. She lived right across from a cotton field in Central California. And so I met with one of my cousins there, and my daughter said, I want to do some family history. And being familiar with some of the Utah pioneers because of my religion and also some of the work that I've done in theater, I felt like I knew some of the black pioneers. And she wanted to do this family history, and as we were going through, my cousin, who is the family historian, and she's in her 80s, and she doesn't have any children. She collects everybody's obituaries, wedding announcements, and so on. We were going through this photo album that she had just completed, and we started to see pictures that looked familiar. And in those pictures that look familiar, and of course, when you're looking at black and white pictures, all the black people in black and white pictures from a certain time frame look alike to me. They look like my people. And all the white people, y'all know y'all look alike in those black and white pictures, right? Okay, so as we're looking through these pictures, I'm starting to look at pictures, and I was like, this person looks familiar. Oh, this person. Oh, I knew our family was like our origins in Africa, but also in the United States, Mississippi. And my daughter turned a page, and because of the work that we've been doing and the work that I do in Utah, she starts screaming because she sees a familiar face. And I'm trying to scramble to get over there to her, and she's like, Mom, oh my gosh, we're related to Green Flake, and she's screaming and screaming. And so this mic is off again. And so she's screaming because she sees a familiar face. And that face was Green Flakes. And if you know anything about Utah history, you know that he was, and this has been always been my claim, before I knew that he was a relative, he was the first man, black man, first Mormon man in this valley. So before Brigham Young came and said, this is the place, there was Green Flake that cleared the place so that Brigham Young could say this is the place. A few years ago, I was here at the state capitol, and I'm looking up at the rotunda, and the rotunda tells the story of the state. And I saw a lot of people, but I did not see anybody that looked like me. And as the more I questioned people, they said, well, maybe he wasn't there because he was a slave, because Green Flake came here as a slave. And so I connect that history to my history, being born and raised in San Bernardino, California. We know that a lot of the Mormon people went and settled there, but also knowing that I have a connection with the first person, one of the first people in this valley to start to clear the land and to build. And my connection is through slavery. And so the purpose of this press release, I got this. Maybe it's on a time frame. Maybe I better speed it up. The purpose of this presser is to express the value of freedom as an apolitical issue that reaches across the social, economic, and religious ideological divides in Utah, and is part of our education campaign to support, it is part of our educational campaign to support, in support of Amendment C. Maybe if I just try to talk louder, I don't know. In support of Amendment C, which will be on the ballot this November, and give Utah voters a chance to remove the exception of slavery and involuntary servitude from the Utah State Constitution. And so what I should have said before was this. If you are inclined, if you could take out your phone, go to your social media of choice, tag Representative Hollins in this, and let people know in Utah that we are in a position to where we can have a voice to remove slavery from Utah's Constitution. And I think we've made the news, we've made national news lately on a lot of different things. This is actually something that would be good for us to make the national news on. So I'm a social media guru, and if we can do this and we all support each other and all retweet and tag your media of choice, the Today Show, I'm not your national media of choice, I'm not slamming anybody here, but tag your national media of choice, and I think that we can make the news again. And so I'm going to keep this flowing, and I'm going to give you a rundown of our speakers. I also wanted to mention that the Utah Coalition to Abolish Slavery is one of the babies of Representative Hollins, but also she's also a part of the National Abolition of Slavery campaign. And so after we get it done here, we can then get it done in other states, and then hopefully take this to our United States Capitol and get it done there. Because until we can remove this language from our Constitution, we are not all equal. We are not. Until we can remove this language, we cannot have real and true conversations, because one party carries the shame of being the doer, and one party carries the shame of being the receiver. And we need to remove this language from our Constitution, and we need to be able to vote on that so that we can open up conversations and start to be real with each other. It's 2020, and we're just now getting to this place in our state, and this was in our Constitution here before we were even a state. And so, moving forward, I just wanted to Representative Hollins and Senator Jake Anderegg. I'm sorry. Look, I don't want to mess it up. I can get Jake right. And so they're going to give us an overview of Utah's Amendment C, and then we're going to hear from Robert Burch, and he's going to give us a background of slavery in Utah. We'll get to that point, and then we'll revisit.
Hello. Hello. Welcome. Welcome. I am so excited to be here today. So I first want to acknowledge the Utah Coalition to Abolish Slavery. What that is a coalition that has been put together in the state of Utah, and you'll hear more about who those individuals are towards the end of the program. But they've come together of different organizations and individuals who come together who have said, we want to work on this coalition because we want this language out of our state constitution, and we want to know what can we do to help. And so they have been awesome. They have put together this program, and they have been working diligently to make sure that the public is educated about this. I also want to acknowledge the Abolish Slavery National campaign that is going on, which we are connected to. And what they're doing is they are working towards getting this language out of all of our state constitution with the ultimate goal of getting it out of the 13th Amendment and changing that language also. So I want to say thank you to those organizations. So this was brought to me back in 2018. Brittany Johnson, the journalist Brittany Johnson, who I considered a friend, called me one night. Her and I had been having conversation about what had been going on in Colorado and what was on their ballot and on their initiative to remove this from their language. And it was successfully removed. And so Brittany and I had been talking about this, not realizing that this was a part of Utah's Constitution. So late one night, late in the evening, it must have been about 9:30 or 10 o'clock, and I was still up working. My phone rang, and it was Brittany. And she said, Rep, are you aware that this is in our Constitution? And I said, no, I was not aware that this was. She said, I'm sending you an email with all of the information. So she sent the email and then called me back and said, what are your thoughts? What do you think we should do? I said, well, what else can we do but to remove it? And she said, well, let me know how I can support. I'm on board with this. So that was the genesis of this movement of HJR 8. As I began to speak with some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, Republicans, their leadership was on board with this. And their response was, let us know what we need to do. Because they realized, like we realized, that this was a human issue. This was about righting a wrong. And so they were totally on board. So as the word got out and the press got the information that I was doing HJR8, Senator Andrick immediately picked up the phone and called me and said, I'm on board. Can I carry this on the Senate side? And of course my response was absolutely. Absolutely, I would be honored if you were to carry this on the Senate side, because he realized, like I realized, that this was a bipartisan issue. This wasn't, again, about Republicans or Democrats. This was about us working together to get this language out of our state constitution.
You want me to speak now?
Yes.
All right, I've coached football for 12 years, so if you can't hear me, you're the one that probably has the problem. I will say this, I was first made aware about it when a reporter from the Salt Lake Tribune called me looking for the other side's response to Representative Holland's effort on this. And I'm a conservative, Republican, borderline libertarian from northern Utah County. I'm a white guy, Mormon, and I have probably less than 6% of my district is African American. Got 12% that's Hispanic. About 6% that is Polynesian and Asian. So we're what, 70-something, 76, 70-something percent white. And I got this phone call from the Salt Lake Tribune, and they're just like, well, what do you think about this? And I said, it's in our Constitution? It's like, that's stupid. They're like, oh, well, so would you support it? I said, yeah, I'd support it because I believe this is who we are as a people. It's how I was raised. So I honestly was like, yeah, I don't have a problem getting rid of this, and let's see what we need to do. So that's when I called Representative Hollins, and we started the process. And I would like to just point out, as divided as we are as a nation, in Utah, we are much less divided. I've been in the legislature 8 years, and I think my record shows and statistics show that about 92% of the time I vote 100%. 92% of the time we vote the same way. It's because we realize that there's a practice and a principle of just getting things done that outweighs partisan politics. So from my standpoint, it was rather easy to put this bill through. Yeah, I mean, we had to have some discussions, but very rarely do you see a bill that goes through a House committee, the House floor, the Senate committee, the Senate floor, and the governor without a single nay vote. And that's what this bill did. So, from my perspective and my opinion, this is who we are. I never considered myself racist in any way, shape, or form, even though, quite frankly, I think I had two black kids in my high school. That was it. So, I mean, it was definitely one-sided, but they were my friends. And that's who I hung out with and played football with and played basketball with, and they kicked my butt. I'm just saying, I'm a tall guy, I'm 6'4", so I play a lot of sports. The reality is that these are my friends, and when we sat down to really take a look at this, I was shocked that it hadn't already been done. So I think the easiest words I can say about passing this and taking it before the people to get it out of our Constitution is, this is a no-brainer. This puts into practice, because our documents matter, and this puts into practice the way that I feel we are as a society. And I know we have divisions. I'm not trying to minimize anything. But as far as I'm concerned, this should have been done decades ago. In fact, what I don't understand, and Sandra, I'm going to look at you. So this was passed in 1865, 13th Amendment, 1868, the 14th Amendment. Utah becomes a state in 1896. Why did we include it? I don't get it. Anyhow, it's neither here nor there. I think it's high time, and I am honored to be able to be here and to work through this process and to encourage all Utahns everywhere to support this amendment, and let's make sure our documents reflect who we are as a people. Thank you.
My name is Robert Burch, and I am the Utah Chapter President and National Board Member of the African American Historical and Genealogical Society, and I'm also the Executive Director of Semi Hadithi African American Heritage and Culture Foundation here in Utah. And I have been tasked with the difficult part of giving the difficult history and painful history of how we come to have slavery here in Utah. So hopefully some of this addresses some of Jake's question about how do we end up here with slavery in Utah. Contention and conflict were continually present when the first European colonists arrived on what would become the North American continent. These included the enslavement of native people found here. One way we know this is the massacre of half of the colonists by native people in 1619 at Port Comfort, Virginia. Out of that conflict, we discovered the first documented 20 and odd Africans. In over 86-year period from 1619 to 1705, Virginia jurists systematically removed its African citizens' rights until it created the Virginia Slave Codes of 1705, which would become the standard for slave law throughout the colonies. Enslavement of Native nations people were illegal in Santa Fe, New Mexico in 1812 and Alta California territory in 1824. But because it was highly profitable and enforcement was soft, it continued. When the settlers arrived in Utah Territory in 1847, they took advantage of the de facto slavery found in the other territories by bringing the practice to Utah. They also introduced enslavement of Africans brought to Utah from Mississippi and other southern states. The territorial governor at the time faced growing pressure from eastern political leaders and reporters because the settlers were viewed and reported in eastern newspapers as subhuman. Here is why. Though taking advantage of de facto slavery, the settlers practiced inclusiveness in baptizing all people, including the enslaved. Because of the inclusive practice, there were concerns from Eastern onlookers that the newly transplanted apostolic faith, which dominated the territory, not only baptized natives, Africans, and Asians, they also married them. Since many Europeans generally viewed these non-European groups as subhuman, marrying and procreating with these groups meant by extension that these far off and isolated believers were becoming subhuman. Concerns over race mixing were increasing for the territory because of political leaders like South Carolina's United States Governor John C. Calhoun. Calhoun touted democracy as a white people's government. He believed no other people were sophisticated enough to maintain the citizen government. For the territory, that meant increasing pressure from federal leadership to replace its governor with one that was dependably white. With pressure from the wealthier slave-holding settlers, the governor moved towards slavery. State Senator Orson Pratt and others vehemently opposed slavery in that territory for moral and religious grounds. Nonetheless, Utah passed Amendment C to the Constitution, an act in relation to service, in February 4th, 1852. The amendment officially legalized slavery in Utah Territory. The preface of Amendment C is almost verbatim to that of the U.S. Constitution 13th Amendment. However, the details of the amendment were less demanding. It was not perpetual slavery, and the enslaved could be set free due to abuse or sexual relationships, and the masters were required to clothe, educate, and punish their slaves. The United States Congress prohibited slavery in all territories on June 19, 1862. Utah became a state in January 4, 1896. Though de jure slavery ended at the closing of the Civil War, states that allowed it never removed the language from their constitutions.
Thank you, Robert. Robert is from the African American Utah Genealogical Society. So now we're going to hear from Loki Mulholland. He's going to read a statement from the Orton family, whose descendants held Harkley Wells of Utah, and then we'll hear remarks from Dr. Stephen Bell, and also after Stephen Bell, we'll hear remarks from Iman Shuaid from the Muslim community. Thank you.
From Sherry and Steve Orton. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said that he had a dream that one day the children of former slaves and the children of former slave owners would sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I think in Dr. King's dream, we sit down together to make our world better for everyone, to bring equity and equality, to remove racism, and to finally bring into existence the beloved community in which every person, regardless of the shade of their skin, is respected. A deep respect was taught to me in a very personal lesson as I pursued the life and necessary information of Hartley Wales to erect a headstone on his many decades-long unmarked grave. He was enslaved by the Lay family, ancestors of my husband Steve. As a family, we gathered together, determined to honor Mr. Hart and show him a small piece of the respect he should have been shown for all he did to help build Utah. As it was our responsibility as a family to do this for Mr. Hart, it is every Utahns' responsibility to unite now and finally abolish the remainder of slavery from our state. It is a way to respect those who were forced to leave their homes and brought here against their will. It is a way to respect every black person here now who contributes so much good and beauty to all our lives. This needs to be settled. It's long overdue and truly benefits all for the table of brotherhood.
I'm just going to scoot these over.
This one's here.
Oh, here we go.
Right here.
Mic check, test 1 2.
Here's this tape.
Yeah, let's use that. Okay.
Tape over there?
Oh, sorry.
Very good.
Good morning. I believe we have a change in program, and perhaps we should start over. But in the interest of time, my name is Steve Bell, Dr. Bell, and 61 years ago, my parents welcomed into this world and the state of Utah me, their second son. I appropriated this famous phrase for its unmistakable and historical value it has for these United States. As 77 years ago, spoken by President Lincoln, sparks the memory to recall the battle and battles to end slavery. It is time to make right what was wrong. As we gather here today, we gather to make our voices heard and support the overdue process of removing from the United States Constitution not only the wording, but in effect the ability to enslave an individual as punishment for a crime. One may say that these are only words. Please remember, words are how we express our thoughts and beliefs. I'm a native-born Utahn whose grandparents moved from Mississippi and Texas to Utah. They came to Utah for the opportunity this state brought to them and their children. As time has passed, Utah has faced and overcome its share of challenges. And in today's racially tumultuous environment, it is time to conquer yet another challenge and remove the language and ideology of a racist institution, slavery. Removing this language from the document that holds the guiding principles of Utah is one of many steps in making black people feel less threatened by a system that was built to make them feel less than. It is the job of the legislators to do the work that represents the people. And so, I thank Representative Hollins for bringing this ignored clause in the state's constitution to the light, and Senator Endrag for his support. In closing, I desperately hope that the people of Utah want the state constitution to reflect their values. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Shuaib, and I'm the Imam at Utah Islamic Center representing the Muslim community. We have a creation story in the Holy Quran very similar to the creation story in the book of Genesis, but somewhat different also. In the Quran, it shows the mistake that Adam and Eve made by eating the forbidden fruit, and they were sent down to this world as a punishment. And there's a mistake that the devil made, Satan, before he became Satan, which is he refused to bow down to Adam, which was a command from God. But there's a fundamental difference between the two mistakes. One, Adam, after he came down on earth, he repented. He acknowledged his mistake of eating the fruit of the forbidden tree and asked God for forgiveness. And the devil, on the other hand, who also made a mistake, refused to acknowledge his mistake. And he became arrogant, and he started to argue and debate in front of God. The point is that we have, as a society, as a country, have made mistakes in the past. And today is a testimony that we are more like Adam than the other. We are ready to recognize and acknowledge our mistakes, the mistakes that we as a society have made, the horrendous crimes that we have made in the past, and we are ready to rectify and do whatever needs to be done for the future. And we ask God for forgiveness for our mistakes as a nation, as a society, and we ask God's help as we move forward as a just society, as a more just society and nation. So in God's name, we ask that He accept our prayers and guide us and protect us from making such horrendous mistakes again. Thank you.
Moving forward, we will hear from remarks from a representative of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Juan Becerra, and then we will have an acknowledgement of the coalition member organization and announcements of how the public can get involved by Francis James of the Greater Salt Lake Chapter, alumni of Delta Sigma Theta sorority.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm grateful to see some of our friends that we work with in the community. Grateful to Miss Janetta, Miss Betty, and Pastor Moses. So good to see you. We're partners in this community, and we're grateful to be here today. The outdated language, this outdated language is offensive to all of us. And there's no compelling reason for this to remain in our Constitution, and we fully support the removal of this through the amendment that has been proposed. And we're grateful for the opportunity to serve with you in the community. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. bit shorter. My name is Frances James, and I'm a member of the Greater Salt Lake Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta. I'd like to acknowledge our wonderful coalition members who have helped us get here today. Amendment C is widely supported by both the state Republican and Democratic parties. The Utah Coalition to Abolish Slavery includes the ACLU of Utah, Action Utah, the African American Historical and Genealogical Society, Alliance for a Better Utah, the Greater Salt Lake Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, the Iota 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 Chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, the NAACP Salt Lake City Chapter, the NAACP Ogden Chapter, the Sema Hadithi African American Heritage and Culture Foundation, the Upsilon Beta Omega Chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and the Utah Black Roundtable. Thank you so much for all you've done for Amendment C. Now, for those of you wondering how you can support the Utah Coalition to Abolish Slavery, please visit our website at www.abolishslaveryutah.org to donate to our educational campaign, as well as you can send your comments by contacting us through this website. Ask your organizations to endorse Amendment C. Follow us on our social media. Spread the word to other Utahns by emailing, texting, and calling all of your friends and family. And you can write an op-ed to the newspaper editor, and please share our posts on social media. And most importantly, do not forget to vote for Amendment C this election cycle. Thank you.
And before we receive our final remarks from Representatives Holland and Anderegg, I would like to just remind you to share this on your social medias, whichever social media you prefer. I prefer Twitter, but also, and tag them in it. Let people know that we are in a place where we are ready to get this off of our Constitution, and ask them to search theirs to see if it's in theirs and what they're going to do to remove it from theirs. I was watching Marshall last week, and the movie Marshall, and in it, Thurgood Marshall gives his Jewish counterpart a charge because he could not argue a case because the judge did not want a black man to argue this case in his court. And the Jewish counsel said, I'm not prepared for this. I don't want to do this. I don't have the words. And Thurgood Marshall said to him, when Moses said that, God told him to go to your brother Aaron, in which you will be a God to Pharaoh. Then the Lord said to Moses, see, I have made you like God to Pharaoh, and your brother Aaron will be your prophet, and he will be your voice. Within the sound of my voice, we have those who have the spirit of Aaron and those of us who have the spirit of Moses. I look at my friend back here, Representative Holland. She has the spirit of Moses. We know that without our white brothers and sisters going to explain to their white brothers and sisters why this is important, that we cannot have movement in this community. We need you to possess the spirit of Aaron and be a mouthpiece for your brothers and sisters so that this can be taken not only off of our state constitution, but so that others can have movement in their states, all the way up to the United States of America. And with that, I would like to bring up for the final remarks Representative Hollins and Representative Anderegg. Thank you.
I'm not going to keep you any longer. Just want to say thank you to everyone who has come to support this evening. A special thank you to the Utah Coalition to Abolish Slavery. They have done 99.9% of this work. And I am so grateful because I would not, definitely will not, could not do this without them. So I want to thank them. I also want to thank my niece and artist, Christine Freeman, for the buttons and the artwork that she has put together. Thank you to her, and thank you to, of course, Senator Andrick for being my partner in all of this and moving this forward. So thank you for being here.
All right, enough talk. Let's go vote. Let's get it done. Join me. Let's go get it done. Thanks.